Hey, this is Professor Triplet, and we're going to talk about the assignment 4. I'm going to pull this down like this. You can see here I just picked an environment that I thought was interesting. I don't know why Big Ben stuck in my head, but this is the environment that I'm going to have on my second screen. So I'm going to just pull that off, and I'm going to be looking at that while I go ahead and just start modeling it out. So, like I said, we're going to try to make this, approximate real-world size. And if I want to get, super technical, I could probably pull up, like how tall is Big Ben? 315 feet, and of course we need a conversion to meters. So, meters to feet, yeah. Or we can say centimeters. So 9,600. Alright, so we can say roughly 9,600. Once we get, like, the one object established, then the rest of it is kind of like, we build around it. Okay, so then what we're going to do here is let's minimize that, and we'll just go ahead and start making our object. Now, I'm not expecting this to be super technical and have everything super precise, so don't feel that that's the point. Let's just go ahead and get this in here, 9,600. Do it like that, and let F. So we can't even see it, so we have to go to our perspective camera. And I'm going to hit Control A, brings out your attribute editor, and then we're going to just add that 0 in here. Now we can see it. Okay. Alright, now obviously it's looking like a twig right now, so we're going to go back up and, I'm going to guess maybe, I don't know, maybe 2,000? That might be way too much. We'll see. Or maybe it'll be, it's probably a little bit less, maybe like 1,500. Yeah, that's probably more like it. Alright, so now that we got that established, of course the next thing I want to do is I want to get this sitting on the ground plane. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my insert button. Let's go to the move tool first, W, hit my insert button, and then we're going to go ahead and snap. Now this time I'm going to hold V to snap it to the bottom here. And actually, I do like to a lot of times go out to the corner like that. It makes it easier to snap. So I hit insert again, and now we're just going to go ahead and I'll go into my side view. By the way, just a little trick, you can tap on your keyboard to get into like a side view. Another thing you can do that we'll be going over soon is there's this marking menu. So if I right click and hold, if I'm holding the spacebar and then right click and hold, you can see I can change the view. So I can go right, bottom, front. We'll go over this more later, but I just want to show you how I usually work. So let's just go ahead and say left view, hit F, and then I'll just hold X and it's going to snap to grid. There we go. I don't even think it's right on there. Alright, that's good enough. Okay, so let's just tap our spacebar to get back. And this is the establishment of like the first major tower. Now, there's a bridge that comes across here. We're going to want to establish that. We're going to want to establish this. We're going to want to establish this. And maybe we'll establish like just a basic structure for this. When you're actually doing environments, the closer you get to an environment, in like if you're doing a film or a game, the closer you get to the actual piece in the environment, you have to make it more detailed. But if you're really far away and you're never going to get up close, then like stuff in the background, that can be less detailed. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and just establish the other buildings and a bridge. And so I'm going to go ahead and just pull this guy out of here. Let's go ahead and say, let's say maybe 3,500 by 3,500. Might need to be a little bit bigger. We'll see. By 2,000. That's 200. There we go. Alright. It's a starting place. Let me look at my reference again. You spend lots of time looking at your reference, just kind of estimating how big it's got to be. So let's go. It needs to be a little bit taller and bigger, I think. So let's just go 4,500. And then maybe like 3,000. Actually, it's probably a little bit more. Alright, so let's go ahead and change our pivot. Now there's a trick here, and I'm going to show it to you. I just hit D on my keyboard instead of hitting insert, and then I can hold V, snap it, and then hit D again. And what it does is this is actually a temporary pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my side view and hold X. It's close enough. At this size, it's not, we're being 1 centimeter off is not the end of the world, but if you want to be precise, then you have to get a little bit closer. Or you just make your grid a different size, which we can go into at a different point. Okay. So now let's go ahead and pull this forward because this kind of goes out right to the water. So we've got these two buildings established, and then there's now what we can do instead of like remaking this every time, we can duplicate this. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit Control D, which is duplicate. That is also, I believe, in here. Yeah, duplicate, Control D, and then duplicate special is duplication with. You could actually make it like an instance of the original one. So whatever you change on this would change too. So basically, they're clones of each other. But so this way we can kind of just place this out here, and this will be the. Now you see, here's the thing now, once I duplicate that, I lose my primitive properties. You can see I don't have those anymore here. Which is okay. At this point, I can just go ahead and use my scale tool. So I can actually just scale that up or out a little bit, up a little bit. Now you can see why I would move the pivot down to the base, because now when I'm scaling you can see that it works better, plus we can also snap it to the ground plane. That's why that was an important step for this assignment. So you may not be moving your pivot for every different object you're doing, but for this assignment it was important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and just duplicate this again. So Control D, move it over, and I'm going to establish the road. So I'm going to just scale this down like so. Maybe scale it like that. Maybe a little bit more. And then I'm going to pick it up a little bit because it is kind of a raised bridge. And now if I went ahead and went to my top view, let's go to my top view. You can see here's the road. What I want to do is actually, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. Getting a weird rotation thing. I think it's because the scales. That's interesting. I'm not sure why it's trying to rotate. My rotation widget looks like it's off. I'm not sure why. Let's see, but it seems like it's rotating correctly. Alright, so I just want to rotate it 90, and you'll see in a second why I'm doing this. So I'm now, when I scale this road out, because the road goes like towards the camera, I can go ahead and scale it like this. So then when we go back to our 3/4 view, you can see now. So let me go ahead and pull the image up. So you can see now we've got, you know, there's Big Ben, there's this building, and then this road that goes in between. Okay. So, now, I can do more with Big Ben than just having this box, and now that I'm looking at it, I think I might have made it a little bit too tall, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just, at this point I might want to just scale it by hand, like so, and Big Ben's got 2 tapers on it, so I'm going to go ahead and make a cone, and I'm going to bring that cone out here. Let's just get it so we can see it. F. And in the cone, I can go ahead and change this to, instead of 20, I could change this to 4. You can see now I've kind of got the shape of Big Ben's top. So that's how we would block out something that's, you know, a little bit different than what we've done. So you can actually change, you know, you can make more or less and make the resolution higher. So now what I want to do then is I'm going to go ahead and just do the insert thing, snap down to here, and hit insert again. And then at this point, let's just get over to here. I'm just going to scale it like so. Let's see where we're at compared to the other buildings. Alright, so this is why this works out really well, because what I can do is I can take this and hold V and snap this right there. So now it sits right on top. And if I go from a top view, we can rotate it 45 degrees. So let's go ahead and just start rotating it. And you can see right here, if I want to make it exact, I'll just zero that out, 45 degrees. And then now I can just go ahead and scale that like so. And for this, I'm not worried about being exact. This is a block out. Just get it so it's close. Okay, and you can see it looks like really short now. And obviously that's not the right proportion. So we're going to pull that up like that. And then I'm going to go like this. And that's my dog going crazy. Okay, so now that the dog's done freaking out, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this box, Control D, and I'm going to move it up, and then probably to about right here, and then I'm going to scale this way down. Let's go and move it over to like so, and move it this way like so. Okay, you'll see in a second why I'm doing that. That. Like that or so. I'll say about right there. And then, let's see. Boy, the Maya viewport is really doing a terrible job at drawing these faces. It doesn't like it. Now, so if I want to fix that, one thing I can do is I can go like this. That'll probably make it look way better. Yep. So you can see it cleared up a lot of the problems. It's just trying to draw too much depth. Now you can see I've got a bunch of these things and I haven't named them yet. And at this point, that's okay. Once I'm got some more stuff established, I'll go ahead and name those. So I got one more thing I'm going to do here. So Control D, and let's just scale that down. I'm going to go ahead and snap that to that corner right there, and then let me scale this a little bit. Boom, like that. Okay, so now we back off. Now, does that look like Big Ben? A little bit. Let's make that a little taller. And if I want to get really crazy with it, let's make a cylinder. Cylinders are pretty important too. It's a primitive I didn't show in the first one, in the first videos I should say. And you know, these are used a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and say height, I don't know, 50, 500, something like that. And then radius, we'll say 100. Alright. F to frame. Okay. Now it doesn't matter if this isn't perfect yet because I'm just going to come up here and actually, you know what I want to do is let me change the pivot for this one. It's actually going to be in the center. So there we go. And then now I'll take this and snap it there, right to the middle. In the big picture, it actually saves a lot of time to be able to move your pivots to the right spot versus trying to like line everything up by eyesight. Okay, so I can scale on just the two axes with these boxes, just the same way the move tool works. And I just pull that down and then just penetrate it like that. Okay. So the idea is that as I keep going and you know, maybe spend a few hours on this, I could go ahead and just rough out this entire environment, and then that would be a basis for building the rest of the object, you know, building them to actually look like a real environment. And it's also a good way to get a project going. Let's say you're working on a team and, you know, there's going to be a scene in this environment, maybe a plane, you know, like rips through Big Ben or something like that. You know, you can, if you block it out fast and then get it out to the rest of the team members and they have the right size, they can start working and doing their thing. Okay, so it's always the first step is blocking out models before you go ahead and start working on them. You want to get your proportions right. And that even goes for, let me show you another example, characters. So I have on my website process books of all my characters, or I shouldn't say all my characters, but some of them. And let me pull it into the frame here. Here we go. Okay, so this is like a process book that just goes over everything I studied and researched before I started building this character, sketches, you know, what my workflow was like. But one of the things, let's see if I have it in here. Maybe I picked the wrong one to show. Let's see. I think I did. Or maybe I just passed it and realized it. So I blocked out this, even a character like I block out ahead of time. You could actually build a character, but I thought I had that in here, but apparently I don't have that in here. but I actually did block out this character, you know, just with a bunch of primitives and stuff like that, just to get the proportions correct and stuff. You just want to make sure that you know what your what your size is and your proportions and stuff like that. So let's look at this really quick, so you can see we've got you know, you got the Big Ben. Maybe I'd want to connect it here. Maybe I'd put some, like, you know, these struts going up, and maybe like make another box that extrudes out a little further like this. And if you want to get really detailed, you could even start putting in this box and putting a cylinder popping out and all that other stuff. So you can go really, really far with this, and obviously your grade will, you know, the further you go, the more accurate your stuff looks and interesting it looks, then it'll be reflected in your grade. So the idea is to, you know, I just want to give you an intro of like how to get this thing started. So now you can see like what you can do with this. And one thing I'll show you really quick before we stop is, let's say I want to do these pillars. Let's show you right here. Let me point them out. These pillars that go along here, instead of like moving those all by hand, what you can do is, I'm going to duplicate this first. Control D. Let's move duplicate off. And this might be a case where I'll snap it to the ground plane, so let me actually get over here and snap it to the ground plane. Make sure I'm there. Probably not. Okay, now we got it. Alright, so we're going to go into here. If you hit 4 on your keyboard, you get wireframe. That's a shortcut to wireframe. That's something you'll probably use a lot. So I'm going to go to wireframe. I'm actually going to go into my top view for a second here. Hit 4 again. You got to do it for each viewport. F, let's see. How come I can't see this guy? F. You know why? Because my top viewport probably is still set to the same thing that all the other ones were. There we go, now we can see it. Okay. So that's the object. I'm going to move that here. Like so. I think it's just right on the outside too, so let me put it like out here. Let me scale it up. Maybe scale it a little bit wider. Might have gone too high. Okay, so now I've got it in place. I can duplicate with a transform and duplicate like multiple of these. So if I come into here, duplicate special options, you can see I can make this like an instance. Okay, and number of copies. So I could go ahead and say translate, and let's say this is the X direction because we know we have the R right there. So we could say translate, I don't know, maybe say 500. And then we'll say 2, 3, 4. I don't know how many we need. Apply. And you can see how that just worked. So it did multiple copies of it. Now obviously these are too close, but I can undo that and say, oh, I don't know, 5,000. And now we're getting somewhere. You see? So now at the end of the project, you don't have to have the entire environment from every angle built, just like one angle of the environment built. So whatever you would see from the reference that you chose. Alright, so you can get creative with this. You know, you could do an environment of a bunch of stuff on your desk, you know, just make sure that, you know, you fill it up and it looks robust and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a big, you know, huge environment. You can do like some kind of cool sci-fi concept artwork, you know. So I hit 5 on my keyboard to get back to shaded. So that's where we're at right now. Okay. So you can see, just in a short period of time, I was able to basically block a lot of this out. And now might be the time where I would say, okay, these, I'm going to name all of these. I can group them first. Let's grab that. Control G, group them, and then I'll call this, Big Ben. By the way, don't put any spaces. I should mention that. You shouldn't do any spaces. You should always do an underscore. In Maya, I never do spaces, and that kind of goes for like most 3D programs. I don't think I ever put in spaces. I always put like an underscore, and then from here we can just say, let's see, like I can use a G for my. It says it's a geo, okay, and then I can say base or something like that, and I can say G roof 01. G, I don't even know what you call that. Bell tower. I think that's where the bell is. Bell. You just need to be able to identify it, and it should make sense. It should be, logical. This will be G roof 2. And then G, what do you call it? Lightning rod? Rod. We'll just call it rod. Okay. So now all those things make sense. And then if I needed to make a layer for that, then I can just grab all of those, and you can see, we call this Big Ben. Now I don't like to name things the same name within one scene. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. So I typically like to, since I have the group name Big Ben, I'm going to change this one to Big Ben underscore layer, LYR. So, and if I want to template that, then I can do it like that, and you can't touch it then once you deselect it. Okay, so that's it for this instruction. This is basically what the assignment is. What you're going to do is just basically, when you're finished, do a screen capture of what you've done. If you have a microphone, you can explain it, but the screen capture should be no longer than 20 seconds. It should be very small. And then you're going to show in a, I'll pull it up here for a second. Let's see here. No, that's wrong. Is it this one? Yeah, there we go. So, you'll have like a slideshow, basically, where let me just pull this down. Sorry about that. So what you're going to do is, you'll have, like, let's say your video is right here. You'll have the assignment name, you'll have a title, and then you can put like a text field below it, like this is what I chose to do. And don't make it lengthy, it doesn't need to be too lengthy. And then what you would do is make a slideshow of your reference. So if you have 5 references, you can just go ahead and pick one of these slideshows and put it up there. So that's basically it. That's what the assignment calls for, and have fun. So I wanted to go over one more thing before this tutorial is ended, and that is, if you just go ahead and type in environment blockout and go to images on Google, you'll find, there's just tons of examples up here, and they, they're different complexities and stuff like that, but obviously this being an early assignment and mostly just primitives, the complexity might not be as high as some of these, but it's a good way to just kind of see where you're going, what's a higher end block out of an environment, what it would look like in the future when you know how to use more of the tools. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and show you guys that you can go ahead and get references and see what other people have done. So, alright, that's it. Thanks for watching.